laid. Some go so far as to even tell you that a woman's sexual pleasure during intercourse doesn't even matter, watering down the definition of alpha, beta, sigma masculinity to quite literally just bragging rights. But it works because it's a relatively coherent, stupid, but coherent and easy new thing to wrap your head around. While most of them LARP about the nuclear family, they can't even afford to take care of themselves, let alone 3 other people. The new model simply works. Instead of seeing the now more demanding woman in front of you and shedding your backward sexist ideas, you're just reset to the new idea of what it is to be a man. No longer a breadwinner, but a more old-school version, a conqueror of the female gaze. But enough about this basic pitch on how masculinity can be saved, even though it's the go-to mechanism for the majority of those struggling with, quote, becoming a man. There's a far more devious current of anti-women rhetoric slowly bubbling under the sea of reactionary politics. Do you remember what life was like without the internet? Some of you probably. What about without television? A lot fewer, eh? How about cars? According to my channel statistics, probably very, very, very few of you. We created all those things in the past century, yet life, which is thousands of years more ancient, seems unimaginable without them to us now. Well, human rights work the same way. They're not some natural occurrence which we all live. Quite to the contrary, they are the statue we build out of the rocks of nature. We have advanced well enough as a species to be able to afford rights. Classes have fought, died, and fought again for said rights. Yet, the same way we can't imagine life without a refrigerator, it's pretty difficult for you to mentally teleport yourself back to even 70, 80 years ago, to a world where people of color in the West weren't even considered human, when we put lead in toy paint, or when playing around with asbestos didn't really feel like anything because mom smoked through her entire 9 months of pregnancy with us. A world so distant and yet so close. That's why it hit so hard and yet so mellow when Roe v. Wade was overturned. Streets didn't burn, governments weren't overturned. We were rowdy for a week or two, and that was it, at least for the majority. Even as it's happening in front of you, as the new normal is being built, it's almost impossible for our minds to comprehend it. It'll fix itself, we think. Oh, come on, this can't be happening over here. That was my attempt at an American accent. This will blow over, and hell, it just might. But what if it doesn't? That is the question that the Tier 2 ideology of masculinity I mentioned earlier can't wait to answer. Now, we've touched on the psychoanalytical look towards the masculine earlier, so let's now take a more materialist approach. We talk about this plenty here on this channel, which you should subscribe to right now, by the way. The Soros women lobby, which paid me to make this video, doesn't really pay all that well. We talk about how at moments of crisis, societies either address their reality by altering or completely changing the true root cause of their problem, the systematic way they have organized that society, or they give into escapism, something political scientists like myself like to call reaction or reactionary politics, which no, it's not Markiplier playing Fortnite.
This is big brain time.
It's basically fascism.
We need to.
But what the hell does all of this have to do with masculinity? Well, it's rather simple. When you raise generations of men on the idea that their sense of success as men is defined by their ability to financially upkeep a family, and then you create a system in which that isn't even possible because, I don't know, a house costs 3 lifetimes of work and the $150K salary might be achievable, but only at the point of your life when your kids have kids. So when you don't want anyone to actually get mad at the system, stuff like the way the economy functions and who it benefits, the way company and state hierarchy works, and so on, you find them an escape, a reaction, a thing to complain about as the false cause of their misery, a system-wide scapegoat. The way not being able to find a job, an error of the system, is offloaded to the immigrant. Not finding a wife is offloaded to the woman herself.
If only it was the 50s, she would get me back when men had a strong hand, a woman knew her place. Now, they only care about superficial things. They throw away their innocence and act almost man-like.
Of course, that's not said outright, but, the modern racist doesn't go around saying slurs either. The fear of being treated like the other for the first time is terrifying. The woman is presented at the same time as one who holds all the power, and somehow someone who is inherently inferior.
The parameters for my resistance are quite well defined, which is we talk, we argue, we push, and then it becomes physical, right? Like if we move beyond the boundaries of civil discourse, we know what the next step is. Okay, that's forbidden in discourse with women. And so I don't think that men can control crazy women.
The 101 signs of everything you need for a perfect scapegoat are right there. I can't even honestly believe it took them this long to think of this in the first place. And that is exactly why it's so dangerous. Because in contrast to the simpleton grifters of the manosphere influencers, the eternal search for someone to rally against by reactionary or conservative politicians can so easily be found in the fetishized idea of what the feminine should be. The more men cling to their unhealthy path of finding purpose through masculinity, the more non-traditional femininity will become a target. It works like an avalanche, and I don't want to be a panic spreader, but who knows? Roe v. Wade for the US could just as well be the first snowball rolling down a very, very tall mountain. So what? All dudes are bad. All masculinity toxic. We should just serve our female overlords now. Pee while sitting down. Is that it? Hilarious. Sit down. F. The same way the ideology of the status quo attempts to hijack female empowerment and turn it into a struggle for more black trans CEOs or prison guards, it does with the masculine. I myself, for example, am extremely happy in what could easily be defined as a traditionalist's ideal. I have a long-term partner who takes care of the home a lot more than me. I hope to one day be married, raise kids, and provide. But I do not sit here and bash or dissuade anyone from pursuing the countless different alternatives to such a life path. You want to raise kids in 50-member communal families or something, as long as it ain't culty, you do your thing, Tavares. And to an extent, you doing your thing is exactly the point. Masculinity, just like femininity or the rejection of both, are concepts tied to our culture, heritage, mind, and biology. Sure, great. But that doesn't mean we have to remain stuck to definitions which have proven themselves to not only be toxic for those around us, but toxic to ourselves. The loneliness, the rejection, the struggle to find our identity is a difficult path to thread, especially in a time as confusing as ours. Only an idiot would deny that. The modern masculinity crisis, as it's called, has reached a point where it can no longer excuse its ideological flaws by offloading it on the woman. So it must look itself in the mirror and adapt, grow, learn, as it has throughout centuries. We no longer decapitate each other to prove who the bigger man is. We have shown we can change the mainstream definition as the world around us evolves. And an ideal of masculinity as such, to me at least, is a place in the future of our species.
I mean, maybe you could play,
which looks inwards as much
but
as
yeah.
out. One that doesn't fear change or growth through change. One that accepts its lack and addresses the systematic ills which put us at odds with our sisters, mothers, partners, friends, wives, and girlfriends in the first place. A masculinity so quote-unquote manly that it doesn't give a damn about how anyone chooses
Boom,
to
check,
express
King
it.
H1.
Well, that was different. If you'd like to support this channel, consider donating over on PayPal or Patreon. For the price of less than one can of beer, you'd be helping the channel stay as independent as possible. If not, then hit all those buttons you see on screen.
Right,
Like,
C6
subs,
will
bells.
be
It helps the channel fight the algorithm.
potentially annoying.
Now that we got that out of the way, I'd like to thank all the wonderful Tavarishi without
Queen
whom
H4
this
G3
channel
can
wouldn't
actually
even be able to run.
should be fine.
Especially Chairman Bra, Ron Wing, Fred Brennan, display name, Red American,
For
Jesus
them.
Cero, Script, 3NB1, probably Fang, Tanker
Let's just go for it.
Kaylee's, Lilia, 17,
Wanna open it up.
Water, Red Messiah, Nibino, BMAT, Soup, Deep Red Wine. Darts 0023, Maynard, Gato Mikes, Fate Fioca, Johnny Soda, Lost, Justin Esperanza, Jordan Zonder, Justin Case,
We have our bishop in a good spot. His bishop is locked out.
Will Hendel, Sean,
We have all our pieces activated. His pieces are pretty meh. So yeah, we just play F5 here. You could take it too. Take F5. Bum, bum, ba, bum, bum. Individual responsibility. Da, da, da. Let's do some Chapo. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. Played that move? Can't be good. I'm guessing just Rook H5 is winning. Might even be able to away with taking the pawn. Queen C3 check. You have to look at all your checks, of course. Queen C3. Right. King G8. Takes on H7 check. If king takes, rook takes. I feel like queen C3 is probably winning. He plays F6, maybe. On F6, I think you could then play rook H5, which should be pretty over. Yeah, I mean, this game is looking lost for my opponent. Let's see. Yeah, let's just play rook H5. It threatens queen H6 as well. There's a lot of threats. Let's see.
I've been trying to ramp up the type of content there. We have some great monthly best ofs, monthly best ofs, monthly best ofs, monthly best ofs.
Anything at this point that would delegitimize the Supreme Court as an authority and a
Check.
political institution in American life is only for the better, in my opinion.
Which is exactly why the Democrats would never do that, because they are the party who see it as part of their remit to defend institutional legitimacy of every element of government, and who see like the Republicans as undermining those things and as their job to keep them up. And so yeah, I mean they're gonna fundraise off it. That's all. That's what they've been doing since Casey. They're gonna fundraise off
Yeah,
of it.
This is
Check.
yeah, no, this will fuel 1,000 emails with urgent headlines that result in nothing. I mean, the Supreme Court for congressional Democrats it's like if you were
Check.
bowling, but you put the bumpers in front of the pins. Oh, damn! It doesn't matter how well we roll. Well, that's always there. Guess we just have to rule out throwing strikes.
And I mean, this is the horrible truth about it. And I've seen a lot of people talk about like, how could the Democrats be this weak? It's time for the Democrats to get ruthless like the Republicans. And it's just like, they're not stupid. This is calculated on their part. I mean, like, they know that like the states that they are in firm control of, like the right to have to obtain an abortion, it was likely to remain
Probably just go bishop G6.
pretty safe for the time being, at least. But the point is, as a fundraising and as a campaign issue, this is a jackpot for them. And the thing is, like, I think Democrats, like at a national level,
I'll be
depend
threatening
on the
some
right
things.
to an abortion being legally imperiled at every given moment, or in fact, being further stripped away.
He has no checks
because,
after
like,
that
that's
too,
the
which is
thing
kind of
that
nice.
they run on. That's like that's a thing you can point to be like, oh, like this is a difference. Like this is why you vote for Democrats, so they can appoint a Supreme Court justice. It's like, well, they don't even do that anymore. I mean, I joked the other day, I will believe that the Democrats are serious about abortion rights in this country if I read an article next week about how Stephen Breyer now has Havana syndrome. I mean, it's just so terrible because, like, not only is there nothing, like, funny you can say about it, there's nothing really even, like, interesting or entertaining or novel you can say about it. Like, because, like, it's already been said. It's just a question of, like, how many people are going to be prosecuted?
Yeah, it
because
doesn't
of
have a
this, and,
check
like, how many
now, which
people
is
are
kind
willing
of
to, like, stand up
GG.
and, intentionally break the law to fight this.
Mm-hmm.
And through, like, either passive resistance or just, like, openly just being like, I'm willing to go to jail for this. I'm willing to become like a national figure. Is there anyone in the federal government who's willing to go to bat for, in whatever
I don't
way?
see like a
It's
mate.
if only the president of the United States had any authority. I mean, I understand we have this stupid federalist system, but like, I don't know. Can we get rid of that, please? Can we just be done with that, please?
I mean, it's always been the question of like, what does we mean?
Yeah.
Because like as we understand that, like the American people as a political body that expresses its will through a political process, that's not going to cut it. I think that's pretty clear. And one of the big problems, I'd say like the central problem we have is that because we have automated so much of the political process and hidden so much of the real levers of power and the real decision making that really does determine people's lives in technocratic machineries that are outside of governance, we are always assuming that power lies elsewhere from our own hands. I mean, and that doesn't just mean people who don't vote assume somebody else is taking care of it, but it means that the people who do vote assume that people
I think on Bishop
who they vote
G4
for
I
are
could
taking
play
care of it.
H3.
But even the people who we vote for don't really think that they are the final repositories of the will of the people. It's been mechanized out of human hands. And if there's going to be any change, it's going to come from
Does that
a
Rick Cafe?
redefinition of what we means, of what the responsibility of that is, of what being a political subject means, and what it means to embody a political point of view and embody a desire to shape the world in ways that are more amenable to the survival of the human fucking species. Everything we see every day tells us that it's a dead concern essentially, and that we've reached sort of the end point of a human relationship where the market is the only thing we can trust to adjudicate our desires, and that anything other than that is fascism or communism or whatever, some horrible boogeyman from the 20th century. But we're gonna have to rediscover not only like what we want, but also what we're willing to do to get it, and what we mean when we say we, if anything's going to change.
Like people are afraid to go to the Six.
Yeah,
Like the six is all over the news. It's like I can't even compare it to Chicago 10 years ago. It's like I don't know. It's like it's honestly like Poland in 1939 with what Drake is doing to his enemies.
it's true.
Gangs of certified lover boys are taking people's girlfriends all over Ontario, and now it's spreading to Quebec.
Yeah,
There is actually there are gangs in Toronto, but it does I would almost be kind of mad if I was in a Toronto gang, because it's like everyone else who doesn't live in Canada, literally the entire world is just gonna be like,
How do
oh,
I
what?
just
Like
checkmate
you
this
guys
fool?
fight over Montclair jackets?
I mean, it
Like, who
doesn't
gets
help
to
that
stand
every other
behind Drake?
Check.
it doesn't help that every other day the Toronto PD puts out pictures of guns they've taken from their street, and they're like fucking blunderbusses held
I
together.
love, I love that shit. They're always capturing the guns they used to kill Mel Gibson's son in The Patriot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They grabbed the spear of Longinus off the streets of Toronto.
Exactly. They're capturing guns used by the British to fight in the Khyber Pass. And
I mean, those guns. I mean, honestly, the blunderbuss or the British musket would be a higher caliber than some of this shit I see in Toronto. They usually what I see is this was taken off the streets of the Six today, and it looks like a Derringer that had been at the bottom of the ocean for 1,000 years.
They have their guns you could maybe use them to fire a warning shot against a rabbit.
50% chance it's going to take 2 of your fingers off.
All I know is I'm going to get a Spanish tercio together and just take over the drug trade in Toronto.
No, yeah, I'm moving up to Montreal, and I'm taking over the drug game with one starter pistol that I got from a track and field meet.
Yeah, if you figured out how to put bullets in a magazine,
I think-
you'd basically own that town. You'd be king of
Check.
Toronto.
It just says here, federal candidate for the People's Party of Canada, Nicholas Pierre, also known as Nakula Das, does not masturbate. In fact, the New Brunswick candidate not only does not masturbate, but he also has become well-versed in the obscure art of what he calls testicle breathing. The self-described semen retention soldier claims to have an endless supply of energy that he uses to spread the knowledge of sexual alchemy all over the world.
Yes.
Okay, so now there's some instructions here. This is also from his Instagram. This is testicle breathing.
Check.
There's some instructions here on how to do this in case anyone wants to glow and retain
He wins the bishop,
limitless
but
real energy. Breathe deeply into your balls, imagining your testicles expanding like lungs. When you exhale, imagine
Wait.
your testicles deflating like your lungs would. Most men never breathe into their balls consciously. This simple practice can be used to simulate your hashtag sex energy and begin to rotate it
Check.
around the microcosmic
he
orbit.
doesn't win the bishop. He loses
All right,
everything.
gentlemen. Everyone here on mic here. We are all testicle havers. I've never tried to breathe into my testicles, but just like if you would just join me here for a second, let's see if we can.
Okay.
We can
Check.
channel- Let's see if we can retain our glowing essence by breathing in, not through our balls. I mean that's ridiculous. I mean
Yeah.
you
My
breathe-
my dog is looking at me, and I have performance anxiety right now.
Yeah, because you took away his ability to do this.
Yeah. Yeah, he
damn it.
knows what you'd just be taunting him.
Yeah, you're eating in front of a starving prisoner. You're doing math in front of a Polish person. That's what this is like.
Check.
All right, okay. So I mean, maybe I'll just do it. I'm just gonna,
All right.
just like, okay, I'm gonna breathe in.
Check.
I'm imagining my balls inflating.
All right.
And as I breathe out, I'm imagining. Okay, I mean, like,
Checkmate.
just first blush here, it felt
Easy
a
clap.
lot like just breathing.
No, I didn't. No.
But I did imagine my balls getting bigger, and as I inhaled, I sort of felt like
Sure.
maybe they did get bigger.
I tell
I'm
you-
imagining them playing Scotland the Brave.
Oh, there we go.
I saw. So I'm going to tell you guys what I saw. My balls blew up to the size and shape of a bouncy castle, and all my dead relatives were playing. They started to guide me through my life.
And that sparks a mania for genealogy that defines Mormonism to this day, and which serves as a reinforcement of these ideas of family as a transcendent institution, whose hierarchical structures are reproduced, whose benevolent, I should say, and that's the assumption behind all of this. And this is, of course, what is corroded over time and is now, a parody of itself. But was the original vision was a benign hierarchy of family that is reproduced throughout eternity,
Check.
and that the afterlife
Check.
continuation of those family bonds. Because one thing that
Check.
that sets Mormonism apart from all other religious traditions within Christianity at this point is its emphasis on the limitlessness of human potential. In traditional Christianity, humans are lesser than God in a meaningful sense.
Check.
God is an eternal being. We can only eventually seek union with God.
Check.
Like I said, that is religion
Check.
as an expression of that
Check.
ineffable sense of connection
Check.
with eternity that is pulled away from that we are pulled away from every day in our lives
Check.
by the demands of
This would've
life,
been
by the
just
demands
me.
of sustaining ourselves, which by the time of the
I guess he
Mormons
needs to
means
take, but
engaging in this
Oh, if he just
degraded
goes here, he
market,
gets made it
in
on
this
the-
degraded asocial life where
Check.
you are
This-
meeting in your day strangers who you're
Checkmate.
interacting with through these cold commercial relationships. So of course for Smith, our families are eternal.
Check.
You stay with your family for eternity, but your own
Check.
family, your ancestors
Check.
will be there too. Everyone will be there in
I don't know why
a
it's
great
tripping.
interlocking connection. But you will maintain your individuality, and that is where
Checkmate.
Mormonism really is the perfection of American religion, because it imagines God not as an eternal
Checkmate.
being, but as a human being. Towards the end of
Checkmate.
his life in Nauvoo, Smith
Bing bong.
laid out a theory of God as a perfected, essentially, man, and that all human men anyway, had the potential to be perfected eternally into their own God. This is a cosmology that could only exist in the context of North American settler colonialism. This vision of a limitless frontier of human potential and domination more than anything is not thinkable in regions of the world where where human society is settled into a static relationship with itself. In North America, the asymmetry between the technological capacity of the settler colonists and the native population meant that an unprecedented mass of territory was up for grabs. An entire continent could be rewritten by people if they had the will to do it. And Smith's vision was to write that vision of eternal perfection into the world by dominating the continent, and then, of course, the stars and eternity, and eventually to become God over one's own universe. And this is the spiritual resolution of the problem that the Puritans had, which is that they felt God as